with our friend and co-host Mike Ficca.
Good evening.
Man of many words.
There you go.
Man of mystery.
Oh,
All
I had
right,
enough
listen.
words today.
I know you had some bad words today too. Um, Tonight's webinar is brought to you by the word "what the f." No, I'm only kidding. Really, it's this webinar is always about. We try to do a little bit of training. We're doing a little bit of infomercial. We're doing a little bit of everything. If you're brand new, like you haven't bought into the system yet, you could type the name down the bottom and say just I'm new or whatever, right? The reason why we ask people that in most, I don't know if you guys can hear that buzzing, but in most cases when we do these webinars, we want to be able to train other traders that have been here too. A lot of people come back to these to learn what's going on a daily basis. And we need to be able to be transparent to give people that information. You're no longer new, Hugo. You're a brand new member. Thank you very much for being here. And when you come back to these, you're always going to learn a little bit about something that's going on. But in the future, coming very soon to a webinar near you, Mike Ficca is actually going to be taking over 1 or 2 of these a week, where he's going to be explaining his trade methods, the things that he's doing. He's going to help introduce some of you to the Trader's Mind series, the 5-minute full circle. He's really going to be there for you to help you understand what's happening in your life as a trader, because he's gone through it. Mike didn't invent the program. He just went through it. And sometimes that is more potent and stronger than anything that I could tell you. I could sit and tell you till I'm blue in the face, do this, do this, do this. And you're like, yeah, Max, you do well because you're this person. But Mike being able to go through this, Paul being able to go through it, not everybody can become a voice, right? So that's one thing. So it's taken a lot of traders to get to find somebody who has a voice to be able to do that. Mike, you're as close as possible, so you'll have to do. I'm only messing with him.
Thank you very much.
No, Mike is very proficient in what he's doing. So, but there's a lot of training to do. There's a lot of things to happen. And as a trader goes, if you are here tonight to make yourself into your idea of success, we're here to help you. Okay, because your idea of success has to be clear and concise enough to know that it's going to take work to do. We're pretty much sure that everybody here knows that, right? If you don't know that and you're getting the aha right now, like, damn, I was going to be a trader and I thought it didn't take any work. I was just going to throw a whole bunch of money at it and see what happened. Sorry, this place may not be for you. If you thought at all that, hey, I'm looking for a place I just can push a button, just give me my signal. I don't need nothing else. This ain't the place for you, okay? You're going to have to deal with all of our little quirks and all of our building and everything else that we're doing, because we're building an empire, if you will, here. Okay. Not one that's going to take over the world, but one that's going to make its own world sitting in front of you. And you're going to have an opportunity to be a part of that. You're going to help it grow. I learned just as much from all of you as you learned from me, believe it or not, because I get to learn how to teach most of you. I get to learn how every time somebody calls me and they talk to me, they're like, I'm really surprised you sat down and talked to me. Well, I'm kind of cheating a little bit. Every time I talk to a new person, I learn a lot about them and how they learn and how they teach themselves and what their expectation is. So it's very important that if we're going to be moving forward as a company, you need to know the things that I know, but I also need to hear and see what's happening. Sometimes one bad thing does not a trend make. Are we pretty sure on that, right, Mike? Right?
Yes.
One thing happening is never about a trend. You can't call a trend on one bar. It has to happen consecutively. So I want you to sit back and Mike kind of set the pace here today with me when I got out of some things that I was doing this morning in coding, saying that the room was there's a lot of people kind of frustrated because you had some losses, right? And I'm going to explain some of this stuff to you so you have a little bit better feeling, because this is not just about this is when you get in and it will always win. It's not about how to handle just always winning. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second. We're going to talk tonight about the news. We're going to talk about pairs, and we're going to talk about losses and wins. And I'm going to give you some final thoughts. Mike's going to throw some stuff in there too. Now, the news, right? I don't have a full slide. There you go. That was the whole thing. Just news, pairs, and then the end, right? But let me talk about news for a second. The idea of news as any process goes into a way of getting it duplicated. Like you're doing something repetitive, that's you're practicing and learning and doing, and you got something, and we call it the flow, right? A flow chart, a flow sheet, something that you're doing. News should be the very first thing you're looking at. If you're not looking at news, if you hear the bell go off on your headset or in air, or you're on the website and you hear the chime go off for a signal, the first place you should go is check news. Is there any news going? It doesn't matter what pair it is. Any news is avoidance. Now, before you say, well, Mac, you're contradicting yourself because you said one time before that the dailies can trade through news. Well, I never really said that they could trade, or that they're news proof. I did say they trade through news. Okay. And there's a difference. The daily signals are robust and have a long enough, big enough range that sometimes they can avoid and survive massive news breaches. Okay. So there's a lot of little things that can take place that can protect you on a daily signal. But then sometimes there is the odd daily signal loss, which we know, right? We know that the dailies aren't at 100%, right? They're not meant to be. If they were, then this would be a different story. I'd just be touting, go to the daily all day long and put working orders on everything and get every single thing that you could possibly get. But when you look at it, let's break this down even further. Here's a segment from today. There's one that lost. Now, this one lost. But you see, it's a sea of green past that. But why was it such a big day that this one lost? Well, because in the room, you get into a trader's chat room and you got 50 people in there. Right now it's only about 38. Or, from earlier, it's like there was about 50 people in there. And 15 people, 16 people got into that trade. It looks like 15, 16 losses, and it hurts because everybody's like, dang, I lost. Why did I lose? And then somebody else comes in and creates a tidal wave. Right? Now, can I explain to you why this one loss? No, I can't. I can give you reasonings why it may have. But let's jump over to the intraday. Now, the intraday is a different story. The intraday has blocks of losses, and sometimes it has an individual, which we call the natural loss. But the intraday has a little bit more of some volatility, as you can kind of see right here. But this is news time. Some major things happen at that point. Some of these other block losses. This was enraged by news. And it was the pair that happened that got it lost. The JPY fell. Okay? Because these were a sell, the JPY was doing really good. And you know why I know that the JPY was doing really good? Look at the British Gold Pound JPY. It was on a buy. This was a contradiction. They all didn't come out at the same time, of course. So something happened in between 15 minutes after 1 to quarter after 2. So the contradiction of the British Gold Pound, because this is at a different time frame that it released, right? But you could see that the JPY, something happened here which it sent it up, and then we thought that because remember I said it's a trend reverse process. This started to fail, and something happened here. Now, was there news? Let's check. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's see here. There's 1 o'clock. There's 1:45. There's 2 o'clock. There's 2 o'clock. There's the Fed. So, what do you think? Absolutely. Because remember, if it's going to affect because what was that? There's 2:15, 2 o'clock pushes it around. Even though that it's not a USD, the news still will affect other pairs. And I guess the big question is why? The shortest answer I could possibly give you, with not drawing out a bunch of charts and a whole bunch of speculation, is I refer to it as a void, if you will, that people know that they're not going to trade the USD at this point, so they're going to go trade other things. right? Each pair has its own collaboration, if you will, with other pairs. You know, the USD being on the Euro USD, the USD the British Pound USD, those things, anything with a USD marker in it, okay, it will affect those other pairs. It will affect all the ones that it has a USD in it. But why will it affect like a Euro JPY? Because when there is no USD JPY to trade, where do you think they go? And would they have traded this as a favorable division for the day? Remember, we're not talking about just a bunch of people on Nadex, 5 or 6 people. We're talking about giant corporational control freaks, okay, that are avoiding the USD market to influx the Euro JPY move. This is why we tell you, don't trade anything when there's news, right? Now, I've seen in the room a few people say, you know, that this one lost or that one lost, or you have a couple. Why did this one lose on the page but not on the site? And there's little nuances with the way that we do things here on Dex Signals, and we're not hiding anything. The prices that we use on the site for signals are used in a capacity of what we call the indicative price. Or I'm sorry, on the site it's called the spot forex price. On Nadex, they use the indicative. Now, the indicative price is a little bit different because it helps to avoid whiplashing. Okay, and what that means is that on Dex Signals we use the spot forex, which might be 1.100, right? But then on Nadex, that might relate into 1.102. Okay, now why does that? I'm sorry. Let me do this. Do 0 and then do it like that, right? For whatever pair this might emulate. So this division of the pip here, why is it 2, or maybe it might be 1018, something to that effect, right? Because they take the last 25 prices and take out the middle 15, average them out, okay? And that equals the price, right? And what this does is, as the market's kind of going like this, Nadex is only really going like this. Now, some of you that have seen some of the stuff happen, like in the last 3 seconds and all this other stuff, you know, whatever it might be, okay? The real truth here is that the news itself is going to give you movement. But there's other things in this world that will affect the market that don't have a news structure that you see on the site or on the system. Like if you go to the news thing, you might not see that there's, I mean, we don't filter this out. You know, we got 1, 2, and 3 bulls on here. You can go to the Forex factory and kind of see the same thing, that there's these little things that are going on throughout the day, but you don't see anything in here that says Trump came out and didn't validate the USD or his financial plan. And so the USD crumbled, right? How much did that affect you? How much did that affect the signals? Well, because we're speculating the market, of course, you know, it could be whatever, right? But did it affect the signals greatly? I mean, look at this. Did it affect the world of news? These two are news related, so we would have avoided those, right? I don't know about the 12 to, let's see, 12 to 1 o'clock.
That was the news.
That was the news as well.
Mhm.
So the system did it. But listen, there's going to be times that stuff is going to move around. You're going to get what I hear it in the room all the time. That was a rogue bar. You know, it was a bar driven by people, right? And what Nadex does, what the program does, what the network does, is that the world of Forex over here, we sit over here in Dex Signals and say, okay, we think it's that is going to do, you know, 1.1002, and then you got by 4 p.m., you know, on the daily, right? And we call that out, right? So we're sitting there watching what the market's doing all the time, and we're saying this is what it's not going to go over by 4 p.m. It won't be over this one, and so then you got to go to Nadex and get into that position. And as we've speculated, the market's kind of going like this, and it's doing whatever it's doing, but we don't know what's happening here, here, and here, why it's making it go do all that stuff. We just know by the history of what's happened from this point to this point that it won't be, a below this line if it was, or above this line. Okay, whatever number we call out. So you have to go there and put your price in there that you're going to take. Now, you could take a better price than we give or less or do more risk or what have you. Our speculation of the market is removed. Okay. So even though if I send 50 people to Nadex to get onto a price, it doesn't affect this market, right? Because we're not really attached to the Forex market. We're attached to a third party company called an exchange. And that exchange called Nadex, and even Nadex themselves don't care if you win or lose. I'll be honest with you. They don't care. They only want their $1 in and $1 out on the contract. They have market makers for that. People that join up with Nadex that are like sellers and buyers of contracts. And some companies have multi-millions of dollars to be able to go do that with. I think right now there's a running thing of about 3 of them in there. And so they have the liquidity to be able to make those markets. They don't affect the price on Nadex on the indicative. It's against the law. The CTFC has to engage and know that that equipment in there is beyond reproach. Nobody can affect the price to that. If they could, they wouldn't be allowed to operate in the United States. Now, we know about news, we know about things that can affect the market and rogue bars and all that kind of good stuff. The actual act of losing in trading, do you have two parts to it? Do you have a win and you have a loss? And the win loss division, the big battle that you always get, right? What does it affect you? How does it affect you? Ask yourself right now, how does a loss affect you? What do you do when you lose? And there's plenty of people in this room. I'm not going to call you all losers, but I bet you there's not one person in here who's won every single one. So I'm going to call you all losers, including myself. So all you losers in there, what does it feel like to lose? Let's play the psychological battle here, right? I'm going to break out the pipe, the pad, blow some bubbles. You're going to lay on the couch for a second. I'm the biggest loser here. I can tell you that right now. Maybe there's some other big losers, but I am the biggest loser here. Some of you feel disappointed. Some of you feel sad, right? You would calculate the page. Okay. Hugo's like, I go into data mode. It's, hey, listen, a lot of people do, right? You could be sad, you could be mad, you could go through, you could calculate, you could revamp, right? How many of you do that? How many of you go down the list when you lose, you go, damn, I just can't believe, why did I do? Then you start to try to validate, right? Well, if the sun wasn't in my eyes, if that dog didn't bark, if those kids didn't come in the room, if the whole world wouldn't have been against me, I wouldn't have lost. No, I'm sorry. Do you want to see something powerful? Here's what you do when you lose. You take 1 second and swear your freaking head off if you want to. It doesn't matter. Let any emotion creep in for 1 second, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big breath done. Now, validation, right? Because you got to have emotion. Humans have to have emotion. I'm never telling you don't have emotion, right? Because if you don't have the emotion, you're not a real person, okay? And I'm not looking to train robots, but allow it to have its moment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done. Now, you're going to wake up and you're going to cluck like a chicken. No, seriously though, you do need the emotion into the trade because we're human beings. We have emotion. So allow it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. Right? Now, validate. You need to validate the loss, right? Because if you've made a mistake, you need to do what? When you make a mistake, what are two things you need to do with a mistake? Can anybody know answer that? two things. Learn from it. Ken, perfect. Mike says learn from it. Okay.
Don't do it again.
And never do it again. Right? So you're learning from it. So you begin and move on. Ken senior level two, got it. You have to move on. Learn from it and move on. You have to give it just as much weight as guess what? You have to give a loss just as much weight as a win. If you don't give it just as much weight as a win, do you validate 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Holy hell, man, that was awesome. Whew, it's exciting to win money. Okay, what's next? Did I do everything right? Check, check, check. Put it up in the system, validate that it's right. Yep, I got the right one, got the right piece, done. All right, what's next? Do I still got time to trade? Is there news going on? Is there another signal? It's had its moment. And you have to apply the loss to a factual part of it, right? To where in the win, to factual parts that if you allow them to live for too long in your mind, you're going to focus on. If you're following the rules, if you're not sure if you're following the rules, what do? If you are constantly losing, if something you like, all right, I'm following the rules, I'm doing set A, B, C, and D, and man, I'm still losing. I lost 3 in a row now. Stop. Take a big deep breath. Make connection. Call the site, get in the chat room, ask Mike, ask myself, say, listen, share your traits. You're doing more and more and more and more to find out why. Why? Because trading is not easy. If it was, everybody and their mother would be doing it. But you shouldn't be doing it alone, first off. Second off, it shouldn't be overly complicated and overly technical. It only takes a handful of things to do every day. Some of you will say to yourself, all right, but you got a 4-to-1 ratio happening right now. So if I lose 1, then I'm going to have to win back 5. And you're trying to calculate. Just get in there and do. Your CVG, consistency plus volume equals goal, will get you to your rate. If you allow yourself to get frustrated over a loss and you're trying to manipulate it to figure out what happened, and now I'm revenge trading, I think somebody said in there revenge trading, that's another big thing too, is the response, right? How can you respond to a win that would be negative? To make it unbalanced. How could you respond to a win to make it negative? Mike, how could you respond to a win to make it negative?
I'm never going to lose, man. I am winning and winning, and I'm never going to lose. These signals are great. That's me. And then when it happens, you're like, okay, 1 loss, no big deal.
Right. It's not difficult to go awry. It's not difficult. He has the consistency. Yes, he does have the consistency. Overconfidence will lead to an overbalanced trading platform that when you do lose, what happens? This loss is elevated into the air and you give it more value than you would a win. When you compound the win by saying, I trust in everything the signals do. I don't need to validate anything. I don't need to do anything. I just need to follow the signal. You end up giving so much weight to the signal that you forget that there's certain little nuances in there. And that when you lose, you start overvaluing. I think we need to look at the entire program to find out what's going wrong. Why? Because I lost a trade today. We don't need to revalidate. We don't need to fix. There's no program to rerun. There's no big time solution to the big problem. It's because we're trading. That's it. We have losses when we trade. That's it. When in doubt, pull out. Stop. Take a deep breath. Paul and I had that conversation this morning. I said, let's take a break from trading for the next couple of days. You have the value to do that. Why? Because you are in charge of your destiny. If the market is crazy, if you feel it's Trump or it's the US or it's Japan or whatever you may think it is, it could be whatever. I'm not going to spend my time and my mental acuity to be able to figure that part out, because once I figure that part out, then I might as well just start making world peace and curing cancer. You as a trader have to find out where your discipline is. And sometimes beating your head, like if like making a wrong turn in a maze, you don't just sit down on the ground and go, damn it, made a wrong turn. Now I'm screwed. And I just got to sit here and wait for somebody to fix it for me. No, you got to get back up, backtrack a little bit, figure out where everything's at, and keep going. Keep walking. What stories say? Keep swimming, swimming, swimming. My kid's going to die when he hears that. The idea of this company is about learning, is about giving information. So I want you to all know that I'm not callous to the loss. I'm really not. In fact, I have some of the biggest emotions when I do lose. I feel comfort when I win, and that's my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 moment. I have a big sigh of relief. That felt good. I have a big sigh of relief. Damn, I lost. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm done. Now move on. Be sharper. If you make a mistake, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, damn, I screwed up. Let it go, move on. Screw ups are powerful because they will give you a result. And a screw up, sometimes, which wins in your favor, is even worse than one that doesn't, because it builds a bad habit. Bad habits that let you lose, they're a big predictor of how you'll respond next time, because it's fearful, because you're like, ow, that hurt. I remember I did that. I screwed up. But when you win making a bad habit, like some of you guys that are in there trading, right? And I know who you are. I know some of you that do this. You're like, I know Max said that risk management is pretty important, but I'm just going to throw 5 contracts on this because I think it's important. And you win, and you're like, see, Max, there's no problem with that. I just did it. I won. I'm good. I can make. Oh, now let me try 10. And you come hovering back. Hey, Max, I lost one here today, and it really hurts. And I can't take the fact that I'm betting 10 to lose 1 and blah, blah, blah. And I hear this, I see it in emails and I see it in progression, because you've made a whole bunch of bad habits up to that point. And then there's just that one thing that happens every once in a while, and it's called a natural freaking loss. Nobody can tell you what it is. All right, so that's news. News comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes news comes in the form of direct numbers that you can calculate and know that the market's going to go down and do all that. You'd be a great speculator. It just takes that one time for you not to be able to do it, that it really screws you up. There's also speculation news on speeches. People like Yellen and other people who come out speaking, and they start down talking the way something is, or didn't say enough about one thing, and it makes the system go one way or another. You don't really know what it is. Spend a couple minutes on it. If you can learn from what it was, then move on. If not, then move on. That's the big ticket. Move on. That's the only advice that I can give you that makes any sense to everybody, is clean your house and then move on. Done. Okay? Pairs. Let's talk about pairs for a second. Movement on a pair is very important to all of you, because you need to know that each one, there's a balance to each one. There's a lot of balance information tonight, right? So an Audi USD, okay, let's do that. I combined them both. Audi USD and an Audi, come on, JPY. I gotta clean my screen. Do they move the same? Are they always in the same direction as Audi, AU and AJ? Are they always going in the same direction? Sometimes they'll go in the opposite. Why? Because the USD might be more powerful. That's happening. And even though that the Audi USD is going down, what happens if the JPY is weaker at this point? What would happen? Now, the main player here is the Audi, right? So if you see stuff like this happening, if you see, and you can see it in the signal itself, start training yourself to spot this. Start training yourself to spot the inconsistencies and the contradictions in the signals because the signals are all about movement in numbers. They're not my interpretation. I've taken myself out of the equation. Do you understand that? In order to make a good signal, no human being can guesstimate and speculate the speeds that this process can do. And they shouldn't have to, because I'm looking to beat human beings. And if I am a human being, then I can't beat another one with consistent value. Does that make sense? So I needed to create a machine, a system, a program, an algorithm that gives me those numbers fast. So when these things hit, I need to know. But guess what? There's a part of this system that I can't put too much technical in. I have to let it just kind of come out and show me, right? So if the Audi USD and the USD JPY, okay, if these are both going in the same direction, what does that tell you? Because what is the universal here? It's the USD, right? That there's a contradiction here. And that conflict, called divergence at this point, means there's something happening. It means that either the Audis plus or the JPYs plus, which mean you don't know for sure which one it is. So what would you do? What would be your biggest advice from this, Max? Well, guess what? Avoid. Sit it, right? Sometimes you'll see this. Sometimes you'll see this in a market, right? And how fast could you check it? Let me show you how fast you can check it. Audi JPY, Audi USD. You can put a 20 or maybe even if you want to look at like direction, you can just kind of slide it back just a little bit and see what the direction looks like. You know, you can see that this is kind of going in a downtrend. Audi USD, go grab a USD C80 or something, and this is going in an uptrend. So it's going up, it's going down. That's convergence. That looks like it's still going pretty good. So you can see that the USD is consistent. There's no major conflict. If you get over the USD going up, USD CHF going up, USD C80 going up, Audi USD going down. Gotcha. Thank you. Market seems clear. Everything's moving like it's supposed to. Now, can it still fail, even that the market's not converging or diverging, or if it's against each other? Yes, it still can. You can still be in convergence, and all of a sudden it hits, because it's never about a group of bars. Sometimes it could be about just one, right? One. What do we call it? The rogue bar, right? It's the same thing with the British gold pound, the cable, or what have you, right? You can get confliction, right? Here on the 15-minute, British gold pound USD is heading down, looks like, right? A little downtrend here. British gold pound JPY is heading up. But why is that? Well, because the JPY is heading up, or the JPY is failing, right? So you can see the Euro JPY, the British gold pound JPY, and the USD JPY are all heading up because the JPY is failing, right? But the British gold pound USD is going down. Why? Because the USD, you see, is doing good. Because it's going up. USD C80 going up. British gold pound USD going down because it's on the other end, right? USD does good. British gold pound USD does bad. Simple. When it's like this and no news, you're in a perfect storm. You're in the great eye. But when it starts to conflict, and sometimes you can even see it in a signal. Let's see if we can find one together real quick. You see something like this: USD JPY, Audi USD, buy, sell, convergence, right? Why is that? Well, because the USD is sucking at the moment, so it's falling. And so why is the Audi USD doing good? Because the USD sucks and it makes the Audi better. You can see it in, let's see, 1600, British gold pound, or British gold pound JPY, Euro JPY, both in a sell, right? But remember too, sometimes you can get this happening in the news direction, It doesn't mean you're going to win them. It just means that convergence is happening. And so you can still lose because there's news happening, right? But in a non-news process, you could still, like in these 10s right here, let's see if there's any convergence here. Let's see if there's any confliction. British Gold Pound USD buy, British Gold JPY sell. But look at the other JPY, sell, 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 right? Looks perfect. All these came out at the same exact time. Huge. I don't know if there was news happening right there or what have you. By the way, you realize that news doesn't mean that this thing's going to lose automatically, right? Because if that was the case, I would just tell you to go do the opposite every time news came out. Sometimes you are going to win, right? Sometimes you are going to hit it, the nail on the head. Okay. All right. So hopefully you got some good information from that. Let's get over losses versus wins. I kind of jumped the gun on that one, didn't I? I put that in already. So some of you have already learned what the feeling is to lose and to win. What's the benefit to winning over losing? There is none. It's both exactly the same. I'm going to play with you here for just a second. If somebody comes to me and says, I've never lost, Brian and I used to joke about this all the time. I'd say, I have to lose once. If I have a system, like right now, I lost a daily in June of last year. A working order daily. I've lost one working order daily since June of last year. It was my third one in too. And I don't know why I lost. I can't even remember. I can't even get to the chart enough to know that I lost it, other than what I have for my data. Yeah, just one daily. But I've lost a ton of other ones, the intradays, of course, and back when I had 2020 signals and all that other stuff. But I've only ever lost one daily working order that I put on. I came really close the other day, the Audi USD, or I think it was Audi JPY or something. Almost took me out. Almost cried. Filled it in the last minute, fixed it, and it was like I was like, oh man, look at that. And I was in the chat room, and everybody's looking at me like, man, these signals are that good. Max said just play it out. Well, yeah, but they are that good. They do work, but they're not invaluable. Don't go throw on 50 contracts on a working order. Sorry. Because the moment you do, all that's going to be proven wrong. Get slow and steady, build it up, survive the ruin. That's what you got to do. That's going to be another t-shirt. Survive the ruin. Survive the drawdown, I guess, right? So the real power for you from what you're going to do right now is practice losing, because the moment that you start telling yourself that I can't lose because like this is at 100%, there's no way they can lose because signals are so good, is the moment you will. And I was getting to that, Brian and I had this joke that if I don't lose, if I don't want to have that loses, I think I'm dead. That I've like gone to like trader's heaven or hell, right? It all depends on your perspective, right? Winning every single trade would probably be a hell to some people because it'd be boring as hell, right? Max, please repeat what you just said about multiple working orders. I didn't say anything about multiple working orders, but I put 2 or 3 on, but they all have to be of different caliber. So I won't put on 3 JPYs, and I won't put on a euro, 2 euro, like a euro British Gold Pound and a euro JPY or euro USD. I have to make them of different calibrations. I can't make them all the same, but that's only if they go on. Sometimes in a blend of 4 or 5 that are going on, I will, if 2 get filled out of that, I'm counting myself lucky. Because remember, working orders only fill between 20 and 30% of the time. And at times they may even fill less. But when they do fill, they have a huge success rate. Mike, at this time, you got anything to add in? You want me to talk about anything or ask a question or anything else?
No, I was very happy that you went over that today, because I promised everybody that you would go over the news process. And I think you answered all my questions. You always tell me that when you see my working orders when we're looking at my screen, and you're like, you're on opposite sides. You're on opposite sides. But I think another big thing is when the working order hits, take everything else off one at a time.
Yeah, that you can do that. I mean, again, it comes with practice. I can put 5 or 6 or 4. If there's 10 signals out there, I choose wisely, right? I choose the ones I like. I choose the ones that have the highest success rate on the site, usually 98 and above. I choose the ones that I feel are really powerful, and I'll put them on, right? And if they all were to fill at once, well, then I'm in that mentality that my balance can handle it. But my balance can handle it. If it can't, if your balance can't handle it, and I'm not talking about going and putting it on, oh, you only have $800 and you got 5 working orders on. Yeah, be smart about it. Time frame that you sit down and really do the work to make that happen should only be a couple of minutes. If you're putting a Euro USD on, don't put on and you have a working order for a Euro JPY, take it off. What are you thinking? Don't put the working order on even if it's that point. Right? So that's basically my story. I'm sticking to it. Chad says pairs have different daily ranges. British Gold Pound usually has a better chance of filling than the Euros after 7 p.m. Where are you getting your data from, Chad? Okay. The British Gold Pound has a pretty good marker in there, but it's really stupidly steady, right? So I'll show you something here in the data processing center over at Dex Trader. Okay, this is where the data is. Okay, so let's have a look at that real quick. Just make sure I'm on the dailies. There you go. You do get an average of about 53 pips happening, right? This is an average of about 53 pips in that range. So if I come in here and go to the dailies, hit this little plus mark, go to British Gold Pound USD, I just have it on at all, I can kind of see it does. It has great movement to it. And then you can kind of look at, what time frames does it have good movement on it. The next version of the DPC and the calculational methods are all going, they're going to break down per hour, right? Because right now I'm only breaking it down for a handful of information: session, best hour, pip average, worst hour. Eventually, I'm going to have it to where all the hours are on here. What's the success rate for every single hour in there? You understand? The reason being is that because you might see an algorithm in there of, hey, at 12 o'clock, it's never 1, it's 0% at 12 o'clock, and there's a signal there at 12 o'clock. Screw that. Right? So you have an opportunity there, but it is really about data. I'm not sure if you got that 100% right in there, Chad, because I'd have to go back and really look at the process. But each pair has its own movement depending on its session variance, right? Like the Euro USD, does it do better? Does it do better in the European session, the London session, or the U.S. session? Does the British Gold Pound do better in London or in the U.S.? And it's really it's not about how much movement you have, like you need for liquidity for Forex. It doesn't really matter about that, because this system for Nadex isn't about liquidity. It's about stabilization, right? Because if we were about liquidity, we want as much movement as possible, right? We want to be able to get in here at current price and let it just go. If we were doing spreads, liquidity would be a big issue because we want movement. That's why we don't do spreads. But if the British Gold Pound has a huge range in there, all the dailies have a big range, 40 to 60 pips. Sometimes the ones are a bit bigger from that point. But we're not caring about at the moment when the signal comes out or what that price is. We're waiting for that to reverse to come back down to either side of that range. And of course, it has a top and a bottom of that range. And if it says that it's going to be a sell, we want this thing to come back up to this range here to be good enough to buy this particular working order. And that's what we want. And then we want it to go on to do its thing. But if you can't do that, it doesn't have the liquidity or the movement, you'll get what happened yesterday. No signals came out for, what hour was that, Mike?
I want to say 3 or 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was 3 o'clock. Well, it wasn't 4 o'clock because signals don't come out for 4 on the daily. So it's 3 o'clock. So
all right.
Yeah, the 3 o'clock expiry didn't have one that fired. Yeah.
Right.
Because it just
And I said
middle
that's
of the
very
road.
unusual, and you said no, it isn't.
it's not uncommon. I mean,
Right. Right.
it's rare, but it's not uncommon. It's just like that's not supposed to happen. There's supposed to be signals every single time. No,
Yeah.
there isn't. Yeah. Trust
That's
me, I
why
know.
I've
I know.
never seen it.
The
So
moment I used to have this person who used to write me every day. They're like, signals didn't come out this time. Is it working? I'm like, oh my God, yes, it's working. Because when I have to take a failure notice, like I got to go. Listen, there's like 4 server systems that I got to go check. Right, I have to check our data processing center. I have to check our calculational network. I have to check our delivery system. I got to go check to make sure that the actual server that the signal is calculated on works, and make sure that it's powered up and talking, powered up and talking, and powered up and talking. And by the time I'm done, it hurts. And then I get the same person writing back. All right, there it is. It fired. I'm like, oh my God. So now I have trust in my own network. I have trust in the process that we build. All right. Um, I think that's basically it for me tonight. Final thoughts. Yeah, right. Um, I think for me, and this is going to be difficult for some of you to understand about me personally, is I had to become very good at trading out of necessity, because in my own mind, what I was trying to do was enact revenge on people. And the revenge that sparked that emotion made me really focus on becoming a better and better and better trader. But just like anything, it's like once you get there, you like become all zen with it. I know it sounds really weird, right? That I became a really good trader. I just became zen, because you start to find that you really don't need. I haven't shown any money tonight, Brad, so I don't need to do a disclaimer. Um, but you don't really need to get to that point of how much money you're making, because you know you'll just get there. You start to follow what you rudimentarily would worry about. How am I going to get to the money? How am I going to get to the money? And you just get in and consistently trade. You begin to find that your needs surpass your wants, surpass your have to haves, right? And they're all 3 different things. You know that, right? If you have a have to have $500 a day, a have to have $4,000 a month, then you better double it, because what you need to do is to get to that higher level, because shit's going to get in the way. For me personally, learning how to trade became an endeavor that almost cost me everything I had, because I let stupid things get in the way. Arrogance, the willingness not to listen, because you don't want to listen to anybody else, because nobody else can give you the answers, because you just want to go do it your own way, make it the fastest, make it a push button. Why do I know the type of people that I work with and I deal with on a daily basis, and I talk to on the phone? When they call me and they're like, well, can you get it on my phone? Why do I know that individual wants to have a push button system other than anybody else? Because why would you want to do a signal on a phone? Why would you want to look at a chart on a phone? Maybe if you're making it and you've already made it, learn how to make it, you can make it easy. But in most people's cases, they just want a quick, easy out. Because I was there. Because I wanted a quick and easy out. Hey, listen, I made some troubles when I was coming up through the times to try to figure out where do I go to trade. And I talked to everybody. Chris Capri, Daryl Martin, Crystal Comer, Sean Jantz, all those guys. And I got to tell you, out of everybody that I spoke to, Chris Capri had it right for me. He said some things in the seminars that just made sense, but he never really took it to the next level. He always just had it to, he talked about time and price and making it price action, and that it is psychological, and here's what you have to do. But I feel like he never really dipped his toe into the true sense of becoming Zen with trading. Because you find yourself not trading more, but trading less with more value. And that's what this system has become more and more for me, is trading less with more value. So what's going to happen? News system, the news avoidance program, where fighting to try to get it out as fast as possible, but it's just like anything else, it takes time. But it should be ready for first thing next week. We're going to be testing the hell out of it because once we start it, there's no stopping it. The training. We do these webinars every night, but really they're not like the onboard training like when you get there. And nobody's going to go through all these webinars. There's some companies out there that do that. They just throw their webinars into a training block and like, go listen to this entire webinar and pull out that one bit of nugget. No. I want you to be very specific when you look at a training module. That you're there for a reason to watch that training module, not to try to figure it out or decipher it. Okay, so we're going to be adding this next week. I'm not going dark on training, but I am going to be working on nothing but the news avoidance algorithm to be able to get that in there so we can cancel out some of these signals that have news attached to them. You're going to find a lot of them are going to drop. And then we're also going to be working on vamping the training. So when you get here, when you first get here, you're going to get it. You're going to be able to go through that mentality and get there. Okay. All right. If you're brand new and you're in the room and you didn't type in new, don't worry. I'm still going to give you the coupon. Thank you very much. If you want to get into the program, Dex Save $50 off your first month. But let me tell you something too. Dex Trader is the top of that line, right? And you got Dex Signals and you got Dex Indicators. If you get Dex Indicators or Dex Trader, I'm sorry, for the $197, we're going to give you $50 off here as well. But you're going to get all three of them for life. You're going to get them all free. I know. Let me say that again. You're going to pay $197, $147 for your first month, but you're going to get them. You're going to get everything included in that $197 a month. Okay, so, and that's pretty powerful because you can start with one, see if it works, and like, one doesn't work, go to another one. Okay, this one works better for me, but I still like Dex Trader, right? So it really depends, but you can go and get a little bit from each one as you grow. Okay, so you can start with indicators, go to signals, and head to signals. It's no lost leader to you, so you can use them all or not use them all. It's up to you, but you'll end up really back at Dex Trader anyway, isn't that right, Mike?
Yes, you will. And
all right, everybody.
All capitals for Amy. Dex Save 50.
Yes, Dex Save 50, all capitals. See, all capitals.
Yes.
Everybody's watching this. You're watching this after the fact. Thank you so much for getting through the video to get to the end, to get to this part, for me to say goodbye, because you have the tenacity to get through an entire one of my videos, and I appreciate it. I want to thank you again. Trade well. Everybody else in the room, hang out. We'll do a really super quick questions and answers. Take care. I'm Max. And we got Mike Fickey here. Say good night, Mike.
Have a great night, guys.